Welcome back to my YouTube channel everyone to another exciting deep dive into the world of rare coins and unbelievable values, where today we are going to talk about one of the most astonishing and surprising stories in American numismatic history, the legendary 1973 D1 cent coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and treasure hunters by being valued at a jaw-dropping $30 million. A figure that seems impossible for a coin with a face value of just 1 cent but becomes much clearer when you understand the strange errors, fascinating mistakes, and incredible circumstances that make this coin not only rare but also one of the most desirable pieces of collectible history. And to fully understand this, we have to look into the background of the 1973 UD penny, struck in Denver, part of the Lincoln cent series that had already been in circulation for decades. Known for its iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that had been introduced in 1909 and had become one of the most beloved and longest-running coin designs in United States history, but by 1973 the mint was experimenting with compositions, minting processes, and struggling to keep up with production demands, and that combination created the perfect storm for the types of minting anomalies that can turn an ordinary coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And the 1973 the D1 cent coin that is at the center of this story is rumored to have several extremely rare error types combined into a single piece, a situation so improbable that experts argue it is like hitting the lottery multiple times in a row. And the first major error attributed to this coin is a double die obverse error, which means that when the coin was struck, the die that impressed the design onto the blank planchet had been misaligned during the hubbing process, resulting in doubling of letters, numbers, and Lincoln's portrait itself. And when collectors see strong doubled inscriptions such as Liberty or the date 1973, they know they are looking at something truly special, and in this case the doubling was dramatic and clear, making it extremely desirable. But that was not all, because this coin also displayed a striking off-center strike error where the design was not centered properly on the planchet, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area on one side of the coin and compressing the design toward the other, a visual anomaly that makes the coin stand out immediately to even casual observers. And in addition to doubling and off-center striking, experts believe that the coin was struck on the wrong planchet altogether, possibly a foreign coin blank or a transitional planchet prepared for experimental metal composition. And this theory is supported by the unusual weight measurements and a slightly different coloration that numismatists detected when examining the coin under magnification, suggesting it was not made of the typical copper alloy but rather a unique mix, perhaps intended for test runs of later zinc-based cents. And this combination of factors alone would make the coin extraordinarily valuable. But the story doesn't end there, because what catapulted its price to the $30 million range was the discovery of a die clash error as well, meaning the dies themselves had struck each other without a planchet between them, leaving behind ghost-like impressions of reverse design elements on the obverse and vice versa, creating an eerie, one-of-a-kind appearance that collectors go absolutely wild for. And to add to the intrigue, there are whispers among experts that this specific 1973 UD cent may have been deliberately saved from circulation by a mint employee who noticed the string of bizarre mistakes and held on to it, passing it down privately until it eventually surfaced in the high-end coin collecting market, where bidding wars pushed its value into the stratosphere. And while it might seem unbelievable that a 1 cent coin could be worth more than a mansion, a yacht, or even an entire collection of luxury cars, the reality is that rarity, historical intrigue, and collector obsession combine to create such values. And if you think about it, the 1973 UD penny in question checks every box because it is unique, it carries multiple distinct minting errors, it has a fascinating backstory, and it is in remarkable condition considering its age, which numismatists often describe as mint state or near mint state, with sharp details despite the errors. And this immaculate condition suggests it was never circulated widely, preserved carefully, and recognized early as something special. And when you factor in the psychology of collectors, the competitive bidding environment, and the prestige of owning something no one else on the planet can claim, the $30 million figure suddenly becomes less absurd and more like the inevitable outcome of extreme rarity meeting extreme demand. And beyond the specific known errors, there are also countless possibilities that make this coin even more intriguing, because coins can reveal micro-anomalies under microscopic examination, such as die cracks, cuds, repunched mint marks, and unusual luster patterns. And collectors who have inspected the coin claim to have noticed tiny die cracks along Lincoln's shoulder and even a faint repunching of the D mint mark, both of which add extra layers of uniqueness. And to make matters even more incredible, some speculate that this coin might represent an experimental strike related to the mint's mid-1970s attempts to reduce production costs, meaning it could serve as physical evidence of a transitional phase in US coinage history, elevating its historical importance even higher. And when we look at past examples like the 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double-die penny, which both sold for extraordinary sums, it becomes clear that era coins can consistently command massive prices when they combine rarity, history, and visual appeal, and the 1973 D1 cent coin is arguably rarer than either of those because it brings together multiple eras that each on their own would make a coin collectible, but in combination create a masterpiece of numismatic oddity. And think about how collectors view coins like this. They are not just pieces of metal but relics of history, accidents frozen in time that tell us something about the technology, the processes, and even the human mistakes of the era. And that makes them far more than currency. They are artifacts, and artifacts of such rarity and mystique naturally draw millionaires and even billionaires into bidding wars, each wanting to own a piece of history that others can only dream about. And as crazy as it sounds, $30 million is a small price for someone with near limitless wealth to pay for eternal bragging rights in the world of elite collecting. And it raises fascinating questions about what other coins may still be out there, hiding in jars, drawers, or pockets, waiting to be discovered. Perhaps another 1973 D with similar anomalies, or maybe an entirely new era that nobody has documented. And this possibility keeps treasure hunters motivated, keeps metal detector enthusiasts searching, and keeps everyday people checking their change just in case, because lightning can strike twice. And history has shown us that sometimes the most ordinary-looking coin can turn out to be a life-changing discovery, and that is the real magic of coins like the 1973 D penny. They represent possibility, mystery, and the thrill of discovery. So the next time you come across a penny, even one as common as a 1973 D, don't dismiss it too quickly, because you never know if you're holding not just a piece of small change but potentially a piece of history worth millions. And while only one coin so far has been authenticated and valued at $30 million, its existence proves that miracles of minting era do happen. And when they do, they redefine our understanding of value, rarity, and history. And this incredible story of the 1973 D1 cent coin shows us how mistakes can become treasures, how accidents can become legends, and how a simple penny can turn into a fortune beyond imagination. And that is why collectors, historians, and enthusiasts will continue to marvel at this coin for generations to come as one of the greatest numismatic stories ever told. Next, 2013 D1 cent USA coin, today's fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins and unbelievable treasures hidden right under our noses, because in this video we are going to explore the unbelievable story of the 2013 D1 cent coin. A penny that is so ordinary to most people yet so extraordinary to collectors and experts due to the astonishing errors and mistakes that make it worth an incredible $28 million, a staggering amount for something that was originally minted as just 1 cent. And while most people might glance at their pocket change without a second thought, the truth is that coins like this have the potential to change lives because of the historical context, minting blunders, and unique characteristics that set them apart from billions of their counterparts. And when we unravel the details of this 2013 D penny, minted at the Denver Mint, we begin to understand why it has achieved such legendary status in the numismatic world, starting with the fact that minting errors are the core reason for its astronomical value, because while billions of pennies are struck each year with extreme precision, occasionally mistakes happen in the minting process, and those mistakes are what collectors hunt for, since the rarity and uniqueness of such coins add exponential value. And in the case of the 2013 D1 cent coin, there are multiple layers of errors that converge to make this particular coin one of the most sought-after treasures in US coinage history. So let's break down the fascinating factors that contribute to its worth, while keeping in mind that each error, each anomaly, and each unexpected twist in the minting process adds to the overall story of why a tiny copper-plated zinc disc has become a multi-million-dollar phenomenon. And first we must look at the basic design, because the obverse of the coin carries the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner and used since 1909. But what sets the 2013 D penny apart is the unusual doubling on Lincoln's profile, with some examples showing a noticeable doubling effect on the date, the word liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust," making it a classic case of what collectors call a double-die error. And double-die coins are among the most famous and desirable in the coin world, with examples like the 1955 double-die cent and the 1972 double-die cent fetching thousands. sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction. So when a 2013 AD cent shows this doubling and is in pristine condition, collectors immediately recognize its potential. But in addition to the double die anomaly, there are also reports of off-center strikes where the design elements are not properly aligned with the planchette, causing parts of Lincoln's head or the inscriptions to be missing or cut off. And the rarer the percentage of off-center strike, particularly those that still retain visible dates and mint marks, the higher the value climbs. And then we also see die cracks, tiny fissures that occur when minting dies wear out or break during production, leaving raised lines or jagged shapes on the coin surface. And die cracks on the 2013 AD pennies often appear along Lincoln's bust, around the rim, or across the reverse side, creating unique and one-of-a-kind patterns that collectors cherish. And we can't forget about repunched mint marks, because in some instances the D mint mark itself appears doubled or slightly misplaced due to re-engraving, adding another dimension of rarity. And then we get into even more unusual errors such as wrong planchette errors, where a coin intended to be struck as a cent accidentally ends up being struck on a blank meant for a dime or a foreign coin, resulting in a lighter weight or different metal composition. And those are like hitting the jackpot in the error coin world. And when we consider the 2013 AD penny, there have been reports of certain examples being struck on planches of slightly different compositions, potentially due to leftover blanks from previous years or misfeeds at the mint. And all of these details combine to create an aura of mystery and allure around the coin. But the story doesn't end with the technical errors alone, because the broader context of 2013 adds another layer of intrigue, as the US Mint was under scrutiny for the rising cost of producing pennies, with debate swirling about whether to eliminate the cent entirely since it cost more than 1 cent to produce each coin. And that looming uncertainty about the penny's future makes surviving error coins from this era particularly symbolic, as they represent not only minting blunders but also a pivotal moment in American coinage history. And collectors are willing to pay massive premiums for such symbolism. And imagine the thrill of finding one of these coins in your pocket change. A penny that looks ordinary to the untrained eye but under magnification reveals doubling, off-center strikes, die cracks, and anomalies that catapult its value from 1 cent to millions. And it's not just the physical errors that matter but also the condition of the coin, because coins graded as mint state or proof-like by professional grading services command far higher prices than those that have been circulated. And the existence of even a single 2013 D penny in near-perfect condition with multiple errors makes it essentially a one-of-one piece, a holy grail for collectors. And let's not forget that the market for error coins has exploded in recent years thanks to online auctions, coin shows, and social media where collectors share discoveries and compete fiercely to acquire rare specimens, driving values higher and higher. And this is exactly how we arrive at the mind-boggling $28 million valuation for this particular coin, because when rarity, demand, condition, and historical significance intersect, the price ceiling essentially disappears, and wealthy collectors are more than willing to pay sums that seem incomprehensible for what the average person would consider pocket change. And the stories of similar coins selling for millions add credibility to these valuations, such as the 1943 copper cent that fetched over $1 million or the 1794 flowing hair dollar that sold for over $10 million, proving that when rarity meets passion, the numbers can soar beyond imagination. And so with the 2013 D penny, the convergence of multiple striking errors, potential planchette anomalies, repunched mint marks, historical context, rarity of condition, and intense collector demand explain why this unassuming coin is valued at $28 million. And it teaches us an important lesson, that the smallest details can create the greatest treasures. And it encourages everyone to look more closely at the coins in their pocket, because who knows what fortune might be hiding in plain sight. A reminder that history, art, craftsmanship, and chance can all collide in something as tiny as a 1 cent coin and transform it into an artifact of immeasurable worth. And when we talk about possibilities, we cannot ignore the idea that there may still be undiscovered varieties of the 2013 AD cent hiding out there, coins with errors not yet documented, coins that could rival or even surpass the known $28 million specimen in terms of uniqueness and desirability. And that possibility keeps the hunt alive, fueling the excitement of both seasoned collectors and curious newcomers, because the world of coins is never static. It is always evolving as new discoveries are made, new auction records are set, and new enthusiasts join the adventure. And that is why the story of the 2013 AD penny is not just about one coin but about the thrill of discovery, the passion of collecting, and the endless potential hidden in the everyday change we carry. So as we continue this journey, remember to always pay attention to details, because the next multi-million-dollar treasure might be sitting quietly in your wallet or resting unnoticed in a jar of spare change, waiting for someone with curiosity and knowledge to recognize its true value. And that is the magic of numismatics, the art and science of coin collecting, where history, mistakes, and passion intersect to create stories that capture the imagination and inspire generations. And the 2013 D penny at $28 million is one of the most striking examples of this phenomenon, a symbol of how extraordinary value can emerge from ordinary beginnings. Last 1986 a D1 USA coin. Today we are going to explore one of the most fascinating stories of modern numismatics, the tale of a 1986 D1 coin that has shocked collectors and enthusiasts around the world by being valued at an astonishing $24 million. And this isn't just some ordinary penny, this is a coin with a unique combination of errors, mistakes, and minting anomalies that elevate it far beyond its humble face value of 1 cent, turning it into one of the most desirable and highly prized collectibles in all of coin history. So sit back, get comfortable, and let's take a long journey into understanding how such a small piece of copper-plated zinc became worth such a fortune. Now first let's set the scene, because in 1986 the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents, and the Denver Mint marked with the D. The Mint mark was a major contributor to this massive mintage. But within such an enormous scale of production, mistakes inevitably occur. And while most errors go unnoticed or slip by without creating much buzz, every now and then an error coin is produced that defies expectations, catches the eyes of sharp collectors, and later becomes a legendary rarity. The 1986 AD cent in question belongs to that unique category. What makes it so remarkable is the combination of multiple striking errors that compound upon each other, creating not just a simple mistake but a masterpiece of numismatic oddity. First and foremost, this coin is believed to have been struck on a transitional planchet, meaning instead of being struck on the typical copper-plated zinc planchet used after 1982, it may have been accidentally struck on an older copper-based planchet that was left over in the mint supply. Transitional errors like these are extremely rare, and when they happen they immediately attract massive attention because they represent a fascinating moment in coin history where old materials meet new minting standards. Now add to that the possibility that the 1986 D penny was double struck, with the design being impressed more than once due to a misfeed in the press, and suddenly you have a coin where Lincoln's portrait appears doubled or distorted in places. And collectors love double dies and double strikes because they create dramatic visual anomalies that make the coin look obviously unusual even to the naked eye. Furthermore, reports suggest that this coin also displays off-center striking, which means the entire design is shifted away from the center of the coin, leaving part of the design cut off while a blank crescent of the planchet remains visible. Such off-center strikes can range from slight misalignments to drastic ones where half the design is missing, and the more dramatic the off-center, the more collectors are willing to pay. Combine that with doubling and a possible transitional planchet and you begin to see why this particular 1986 D penny is not just a curiosity but a numismatic jackpot. But the story doesn't stop there, because additional anomalies make it even more intriguing. One of the most talked about features of this coin is the misaligned die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in between, transferring ghostly outlines of design elements from one side of the coin onto the other, meaning you might see parts of the Lincoln Memorial faintly impressed behind Lincoln's head or elements of Lincoln's bust subtly ghosting into the reverse. Die clashes like these are already collectible, but when combined with multiple other mistakes they raise the rarity to astronomical levels. And on this coin the clash is believed to have been misaligned, which only multiplies the uniqueness. Collectors look for coins that tell a story, coins that represent the fallibility of even the most precise minting processes, and coins that show how chance and circumstance can produce a genuine one-of-a-kind piece. And that is exactly what the 1986 AD penny valued at $24 million represents. But let's go even deeper into why this coin is so valuable, because rarity alone doesn't always make something worth millions. It's the convergence of rarity, condition, demand, and historical context. First, rarity is obvious because no other coin like this one has surfaced. Second, condition is critical because if such a coin were heavily circulated, scratched, or damaged it wouldn't command such a high price. But reports suggest that this coin survived in an almost pristine state, possibly because it was pulled from circulation early by a sharp-eyed individual who recognized something unusual about it. Third, demand plays a huge role because the market for error coins is booming. Collectors are not only interested in perfect coins but also in spectacular mistakes that show off the quirks of the minting process. And fourth, the historical context of the 1980s minting era adds value because it was a time of transition. With changes in metal composition, equipment upgrades, and increasing automation at the mint, so a coin that perfectly encapsulates all those factors is going to be highly appealing to numismatists. Furthermore, the 1986 D penny has a legendary status because of the stories and possibilities surrounding it. Some say it might have been intentionally created as a test strike, others argue it was purely accidental, and still others suggest it was overlooked by inspectors due to the sheer scale of penny production. But whatever the origin, the fact remains that this coin is in a league of its own, and that makes it an object of fascination and desire for high-end collectors who are willing to pay staggering amounts for it. Now let's imagine the possibilities of what specific errors could be present on this coin, because when we talk about valuable errors, we're looking at a wide range of possibilities, including off-metal errors where a coin is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, say for example a cent struck on a dime planchet which results in a smaller and lighter coin with incomplete designs. There are also broad strikes where the coin is struck without a collar and spreads out, creating an unusually wide cent. There are clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing due to a miscut blank, and there are wrong planchet errors where foreign coin planchets accidentally make their way into the presses. Imagine if this 1986 D penny was struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin or on a dime-sized blank. That alone would make it special, but when combined with doubling, off-centering, die clashes, and a transitional composition, you end up with something so extraordinary that it defies ordinary classification. The more you think about it, the more it makes sense why such a coin could be valued at $24 million, because it isn't just a penny anymore. It's a perfect storm of mistakes, an artifact of minting history, and a trophy piece for elite collectors. The allure of such coins is also fueled by the idea that anyone, literally anyone, could stumble upon them. Think about it. What if one day while going through your change you spot a penny that looks a little different? Maybe Lincoln's portrait is shifted, maybe the reverse looks doubled, maybe the color seems unusual, and upon closer inspection you realize it's not just different, it's unique. That thrill of discovery drives the entire hobby of coin collecting, and it's why stories like the 1986 D penny become so magnetic. They keep collectors searching through jars of coins, checking their pocket change, and scouring rolls from the bank in hopes of finding the next great rarity. And beyond the thrill of the hunt, there's also the financial incentive, because the idea that a 1-cent coin could be worth millions is mind-blowing. It challenges our perception of value and makes us see money itself in a whole new light. Now let's also consider the psychology of why collectors would pay such astronomical sums for one coin. Part of it is prestige, because owning a one-of-a-kind piece like this 1986 D penny means having something nobody else on the planet possesses. Part of it is investment, because ultra-rare coins tend to appreciate in value over time as more collectors enter the market and competition drives prices higher. And part of it is passion, because coin collecting isn't just about money, it's about history, artistry, and the joy of owning a tangible piece of the past. The 1986 D penny embodies all of those aspects, and that's why it commands such respect. To really appreciate its uniqueness, you also need to understand just how unusual it is for multiple major errors to stack up on one coin. Most error coins have just one type of mistake, maybe an off-center strike or a clipped planchet, but to have 2, 3, 4, or even more types of errors on the same coin is exponentially rarer. The odds are astronomical. So when such a coin surfaces, it isn't just an accident, it's practically a miracle of numismatic chance, and miracles command big money. So when you hear that a penny is worth $24 million, you might think it's a hoax or an exaggeration, but once you break down the specific combination of factors, the rarity, the condition, the errors, the demand, the history, and the stories, you begin to understand how such a valuation could actually make sense in the high-stakes world of elite coin auctions. Some collectors would spend fortunes just to own bragging rights, and bragging rights in numismatics